back to the Tech Stop. Today we're going to be talking about Harbor Freight tools and the best value tools that you can find at Harbor Freight. Now a quick note, we're going to be moving from the left to the right, but there are a couple items in the kit to the right that did not come from Harbor Freight. That was simply because I already had the tools. Like my Champion needle nose pliers, channel locks, little green battery tester, which I already had from Home Depot, and then I believe the little small tape measure, a couple of things, we'll talk about it, but there is those variants at Harbor Freight for a very similar price. Also that yellow screwdriver, which you can barely see right now. Starting from the left to the right, you have this little screwdriver kit over here. Now as far as the screwdriver build quality goes, these screwdrivers are not built all too well. I would say they are good for some basic home use, but how the handle is constructed, if you look down in there, it has a plastic ring around it, and then this is basically glued onto that plastic ring, I think. So I would not trust it too much for prying on things, but overall, the metal build feels pretty good. It doesn't bend at all under, leverage that I can put on it, per se, but it will if you put enough torque down on it. So the handle build overall, not as good as these, which are also from Harbor Freight, which I would definitely recommend over these. Now these tools right here come in a kit for about $8 and also include the very small red screwdrivers, which you can see right there in my kit. It also has the flex driver and adjustable bits that you can put in it, and different size screwdrivers, which I'll show you up close in a minute. Let's go ahead and start with the individual screwdrivers, which are laid out, and then I'll move into that kit and finish with the biggest kit which I have so far. This kit is more designed for very light electrical work and more electronics work. It's a go kit for me. I do not want to take it unless I have to, but if I basically have to grab something and go, and I don't know exactly what I'll need, I'll walk into somewhere with that because it basically has an all-around solution for anything I'll need. These screwdrivers right here I have in the top of my toolbox, and I've used this set for the past 3 years and went back and bought another set to put in that kit when I was putting that kit together. The oldest thing that I have here right now is going to be these picks. These are the Pittsburgh 4-piece pick set that they still sell, and that is at least from about 2008. I think that's when those are from. It was originally purchased for a watch set, but it's kind of adapted its uses, and now I use it for electronics when needed. I don't have to use it too often, but they have withstand the test of time for sure. These screwdrivers right here have an overall pretty good build to them. It's a hard plastic, so the grip doesn't necessarily feel too good. You don't have too good of a grip on it, but depending on what you're doing, it's a good screwdriver. Definitely around the house for the free value, which you can get free coupons and use them. It's definitely a perfect screwdriver. And I actually use the smaller Phillips, this one right here, to repair computers a lot. It's quick access, but these screwdrivers come in a pack, and I do not have all the screwdrivers right here. There's also a bigger flathead, which I can show you in that kit, and these are the stubs from that kit that I didn't need, and there's also a flathead right here of this size, so I think it's a 6-piece total. It has 2 of these, 2 of these, and 2 of the bigger sizes. Moving on to this screwdriver set, it's a very nice set. It has, 12 pieces I think it is? I'm not counting, about 12 pieces, and it has a very large flathead screwdriver, which actually can take quite a beating. I had another one of these that I used basically to pound on some concrete when I was getting gunk off where a baseboard was, and I had to put a wall-mounted box, so I needed to clear out the gunk that was on the wall, and I used it as a beater screwdriver for a while. And some of the bigger screwdrivers have the hex shank on here that allow you to put an adjustable wrench or pliers or something and get some extra torque on the driver. Overall, when I'm feeling it in my hand, it does not feel like a slouch. The grip is a real rubber. This is not plastic, even though this is plastic. And the plastic handle is molded into this, and if you see inside, it has tabs inside that go into the plastic as well, to where it's not just a straight cylinder in plastic. They have the smaller stub sizes, and they kind of gradually move up. This set right now I believe cost about $12, but it would be a temporary solution for if you wanted something like a Klein screwdriver. Southwire and DeWalt and all of them make similar types, but they don't necessarily have as good a warranty and as good a build as Klein. My Klein screwdrivers that I have, I've not really felt a screwdriver that feels just like it. So these screwdrivers are in basically brand new shape. I don't have to use them that often because I use these, which are kind of out, but I think I'm going to shift into these right here and use them more to see how they withstand the test of time for smaller uses like electronics. I found that the heads on them do not strip out that easy like some of the other tools that are sold, like the Pittsburgh blue and red screwdrivers that are around. I've seen them before. I don't have any in this video, but so I'm going to go ahead and do a test on those, and we're going to get a closer look into this screwdriver box right here, and I'll clear everything out. The one thing I did not mention so far is this small screwdriver right here. This comes in a pack of 3 at Harbor Freight. I believe it's $5, and it gives you, I think it's 12 bits, so it allocates 4 to each screwdriver. And the only problem with it, that it gives you 3 screwdrivers, is that it gives you Phillips, flat, and Torx, and you don't necessarily get one of each for every screwdriver. So you'll have one that has more Phillips, one that has more flat, and one that has more Torx, or whatever. You can try to split it up, but I usually didn't get too good of a split from it. So the best solution is to have some more of those smaller bits that store in the handle around. You can get a little kit from Amazon for like, I think I got it as an add-on for $2, and they had different little bits. And actually in this kit over here, I don't have the screwdriver because I have all those bits put into like a little pillbox container for my green screwdriver, which you'll see in a minute. So as far as value goes, I like those little screwdrivers because it's something you can maybe put in the car, put in the kitchen drawer, put in your pocket, and it stays together and keeps all the bits in the handles, and it's compact. But you couldn't put too much torque or leverage down on a screw. So I'm going to go ahead and clear all the screwdrivers off this little workbench here and get a closer look at the first kit. And you'll see that quality does suffer on the first kit. So for the purpose of this video, I put the kit completely back together. All of the smaller screwdrivers, which are at the top, I keep in that other case that I showed in the video in the previous clip. As long as I have that small screwdriver that is green in the case, then I usually am fine, but these do, give me some security being there. They're not built too well, but they work for the $8 price tag I think I paid for this whole kit. And the T-driver that's in there has a very cheap plastic handle, but also works if you grip it correctly. I would not put too much torque down on something with it, but like I said, if it works, it works. I had already mentioned these screwdrivers right here. They do work, but like I said, I wouldn't rely on the handle lasting too long. The overall build of them just seems, something like you would get in a cheap tool, maybe a Dollar Tree tool, basically. Now I bought this kit because I thought it would be a nice little thing to have, but the worst problem I ran into was the quality of the case. It's a very thin plastic that flexes just like this. I can just grab it and squeeze it. It's not a good case at all. And these screwdrivers I didn't care for enough, so I decided not to even use them. I just took all the small screwdrivers and the T-driver out and left that flex driver, because I already have another one, and all this, and put it in the closet. If I ever need a cheap screwdriver to bang on or take in a place where I don't want to lose any tools, then I will take the set screwdriver. Let's go ahead and close this up. And I'll show you that these latches, they look like they latch, but if it moves, like I can flex it one way, and of course it's staying on now for the purposes of this video, but I'm just flipping it over, the tabs kind of come off. So basically what I was having to do is use electrical tape to hold these flaps down, because they're not reliable, because I can take it on a car ride and they'll just kind of flip up. I also used a zip tie at one point to keep it together, and it was just kind of one little kit in case I needed it, but I'd like to use those small screwdrivers more, and the T-driver was kind of the nicest part about it. They gave you some slots here to put in some more bits. Even though they're labeled, none came in it. They did come with some here, but how they are built, they've already developed a coating of rust on them. But I guess it has been a significant amount of time, a couple years, but there's a lot of rust on them, so they're not coated with anything, or galvanized, I guess you'd say. They could be slightly galvanized, but they still collect rust very well. And I do believe some of these bits have been interchanged with different kinds, but I guess that doesn't really matter. The whole point of this little kit here is for the $8 value. I do think that the tools are worth it, but just not the case. Do not rely on the case. This is not a direct representation of how all our Harbor Freight tools are, however. Some of their power tools have been very good. I got one of their impact drivers and gave it to my grandfather. He's been using it. He actually used it to put on some pretty big bolts and nuts and things for an engine, for a lawnmower engine, and it has worked very well. The battery has lasted the whole 6 months so far, so hope that it continues to function that well. And I've had a heat gun that was $8 at Harbor Freight for the past 4 years. Still works. Soldering iron. I got a $2 soldering iron that's on my soldering station still to this day. And that soldering iron is on the lower end, but it functions perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and put the bigger kit, put those tools back in the bigger kit so I can show you what it is like. Now the estimated value of putting this bigger kit back together is somewhere around $150. So if you're looking for a small kit and you don't have to use it too much, I recommend this. It's just a nice little case. And usually when I'm doing computer repair, I do not use this case that often. I have tools at my office that I have right by my desk, so I can just grab it and set it on the workstation and start working on it. And I also have another kit that has more things in it, such as networking tools and etc. And I also have a tool belt that I have just developed, I'd say about 2 months ago, and it has some basic tools that you would use for the low voltage and datacom industries. So let me go ahead and switch this back over, get the next kit on here, and explain the one that I really enjoy the most. So I've had to adjust my workbench a little bit and make the leaf pop up. And this workbench was actually converted. It used to be designed for, the top came off of a kitchen island, and I removed it and put it on a metal rack basically. So that's why there's an extension leaf, which I like. Can't support too much weight, but it definitely extends my workspace when I'm doing something. So looking at this kit right now, when I bought the case runs about $30. It has these things right here. These actually serve as dividers. If you see, there's slots all around the back, all around. So you can put these sliders in different ways. They divide, and you'd have to cut the foam. All the foam insert that's in there came with it, and I just cut it away for the tools that I needed. And there's also foam backing behind that top pouch where the tools are. And I guess overall I'd say that I just don't need the dividers. The dividers would be good for somebody working with smaller things like different bolts, different parts, maybe like electrical things. If you need different fittings and stuff, you could definitely use it for that. But the case might not withstand heavy duty use on a construction site. This is more also for a look too. I don't want to walk into a place that is not a construction site with a bucket full of tools, basically. That just doesn't prove the right look, I guess you'd say. So I kind of use these when the case is moving around, there's a gap. So I lay these down and wedge them in to basically act as supports to hold the tools. And it keeps everything in place when I'm moving. And I've taken it long distances and everything. But I guess first off, let's go ahead and look at the bottom layer of the tools, and I'll explain everything about that. So as you can see here, I have a few tools that help out my job a little bit. Starting here, we have the Quinn side cutters or dikes, whatever you'd like to call them. I believe they're 7 or 8 inch dikes, and it does not say on it, but they are 7 or 8 inch dikes, and they work very well. These are sold at Harbor Freight. They are not directly compared to, like, say, Klein. I've used Klein's a lot, and I've used these. They're still fairly new, so if you look at the blades are quite sharp when you buy them. I just don't know how it would withstand the test of time and beating on them, but they feel very well built, and they have some nice grips on it that are very tight on there and don't just slide around. So that's very nice. These are the Pittsburgh wire strippers, and they have everything from 20 to 10, and I believe that is solid. On this side, yeah, it's 20 to 10, and it does not directly say on there which side is dedicated for solid or not, but overall, they feel pretty good. They are contoured to your hand and they have a spring so they don't get caught up, and I've stripped some smaller gauge wire. I've never tried any 10 gauge wire on it, but I have stripped 12 and 14. I've only used these a handful of times because, like I said, I don't use this kit much, but the overall build of these is pretty nice. I do enjoy using these because of how they feel on my hand. Overall, as far as the plier tip go, I don't know if I'd recommend it for that. I think that they would flex at this joint right here because they are a little bit thinner than some, say, like Klein. But then again, this is a value tool store. This is not like a a supply house where you go in and the back wall is just covered in Klein tools, Milwaukee, and things like that. Those are expensive tools. Like a pair of strippers like this that are Klein at that size run around $15 at minimum. These were $6. So kind of get what you pay for there. These are just a bundle of zip ties. Harbor Freight offers bags of 100 count and zip ties for $1. So I definitely get those anytime I go there, and they're good to have around. And these are not from Harbor Freight. This pair right here, I have the whole set of the Champion tools, but these are just channel locks and long, like big needle nose pliers. Over here in this little box right here, it's like a pillbox type thing, but it has different screws for computers, and in here is actually jumpers. I don't have to use jumpers anymore. The only, I guess the only application for jumpers anymore is kind of like CMOS resets and on motherboards. But they used to be used very often with IDE hard drives because you would have to change the jumper and basically tell the hard drive what its operation was. Was it the main drive or was it like a secondary drive called a slave drive back then? And jumpers were used for different things. And then I have little paper washers and then all those bits I was telling you about, which go in my green screwdriver above. And I just kind of cut out the foam and it sits down there and holds it in tight. Right here, this is the Ames model. It is sold at Harbor Freight. I don't know if they have their own website or if they are a company owned by Harbor Freight, but it's an outlet tester and it's quite simple. The function that I like about this compared to the other ones is it does come with a GFCI tester, and it does feel like it's a pretty good build quality. The plastic is not flimsy, but it has a GFCI tester so you can manually trip a GFI and make sure that it is functioning properly. Some of the cheaper Southwire and other brands out there do not come with the GFCI unless you pay for the nicer one. Like if you go to my earlier video, the Klein Tools ET310 circuit breaker tester has one built onto that transmitter. This is also an Ames voltage pin. Basically, it just picks up the field around the hot wire and electrical wires, and it works only for AC though. I think its range is, like it says, here I can tell you what the range is. It says max 600 volts. It's anywhere from 50 to 600 volts AC, so it does not pick up DC, although there are some higher end ones that do have a DC option and have some cool other tools as well, like maybe a flashlight on the end or something like that. But this was $4, and I think this was $4 as well. And it works pretty well. It doesn't give you any indicator like a Klein Tools would one. Like a Klein Tools beep every 3 seconds and Southwire. And so this one you have to be sure that it's on. Moving down here, this is, I believe, 12 foot of, it's 11 foot of fiberglass. It's a fiberglass running kit, but a lot of people call these fishing rods, things like that. They screw together and help you fish wire through tight places. It comes with a cool little carrying kit. My only complaint about these, I have used them a little bit, my only complaint is these fittings. When you get into your higher end ones like Klein Tools and things like that, they glow in the dark and they're clear, and these fittings are flush with the rest of the pole, so they can't hang up on that hole that you're trying to fish these through. And I have run into that a couple times where it'll get hung on the fitting, so you have to play with it a little bit, and then it'll finally go all the way in. And you might hit that a few times because when you put all these links together, you'll be hitting those fittings. You could be hitting like 8 or so of those fittings. Depending, if you're doing the full length though, you'll run into, I guess 10 of those fittings, because The first one you're putting in from the outside, but usually when you go pull up, you have to hit the rest of them. And it comes in 10-foot lengths, I believe. 10 single foot lengths is what it says right there. All right, right here I have a 32 or 16 gigabyte PNY 3.0 flash drive and a wireless adapter right here. I just threw those in there from the last thing I was doing. I didn't know exactly what I was going to have to do, and I ended up putting some drivers for a network card on that and taking it with me. And that was the little network adapter I needed. It was a computer that the wireless card that was in it was not functioning correctly, and I ended up replacing it because it was old and not designed for the operating system it was being run on. This right here is a little Commercial Electric, which you know is a Home Depot brand. It is a battery tester. It can do button cells, lithium 3 volt, photo cells 6 volt, 9 volt, 12 volt, 15 volt, 22.5 volt, and 1.5 volt, and so on and so forth. You can put 9 volts on there, and the only thing about this is you can't necessarily put a load on a battery. I'll give you an example. You definitely wouldn't want to use this with a car battery because you can kind of use common sense on that one. When they test car batteries like AutoZone, you'll notice that they have thick gauge wires on their meters, and they can test the resting voltage, but they also test the voltage under load to make sure that the battery doesn't drop too low. So it could sit around 13 volts no load and around 11.5 volts under load, and that's about a normal battery, I'd say. But under this is a little bit hard to get in that gap, so I'm gonna just go ahead and pull it off to the side. And now the next thing is the Harbor Freight digital multimeter. It is, for what it is worth, it is a great multimeter. I have 3 of them. But you have to be very careful and know exactly what you are putting this on. It is 5 amp fused, 5 amp max on the high voltage port here, but honestly I would never ever mess with that on this type of meter. I just don't trust it enough. It is only category 2 rated, and on most job sites, especially like government contracted things and certain employers, if you're an electrician or maybe in the datacom field, they will have like a minimum of a Cat 3 for your meter, and some will say a Cat 4. Like most Fluke meters, like the T5 and the T600 and things like that, have like Cat 3 or Cat 4 at minimum up to, say, 600 volts. When it says Cat 2 here, this is category 2. It says category 2, 250 volts. So you cannot test anything over 250 volts is what it says on this. But I definitely wouldn't even do that. So they're saying at max, basically, you could test a 240 volt power source, but the max I would ever do with it is your standard 120 in homes, and I have used it for that on several occasions. But I'd recommend, if you're using it often, spend the money on like a upgraded one. Like Klein has one for 35 bucks. Southwire has one for that same area. But if you're going to be using it really often, go ahead and buy the best in the industry. Fluke is unbeatable pretty much by anyone, and some people might debate that, but Fluke seems to be the most recommended by all the electricians I've been around. So there's not really much else in here. That right there is just a cheap promotional tape measure. I don't have a full-size tape measure in my kit because I couldn't really fit it, and I'm sure I could squeeze it in there, but I didn't really have too much room for it. And like I said, don't use this for that much. In my other kit, I have a tape measure clipped onto the side and a small tape measure like that hanging off, and I will show you that in one of my next videos coming up soon. The theme of this whole video, though, is Harbor Freight tools, or cheap tools in general. We have a couple more things to go over at the top, and I'm just going to show you the whole case in general. Alright, so looking at the top of the kit here, you'll see some familiar things already. You'll see the T-driver and the small screwdrivers, which were in the previous kit. You'll also see this black screwdriver set right here. I only have the main 4 in here because the little stubby ones just wouldn't fit anywhere in here, and I didn't want them loose down here. Like I said, enjoy these screwdrivers very much. I have not used this set very much, but the other ones I've worn out, and probably will buy more. I might transition to the other set, still have not completely decided. Right here I have a multi-driver. You can get these at Lowe's or Home Depot for around $3, and it has nut driver on this side right here. I believe it's the same size. No, 2 different nut drivers. There are 2 different nut drivers. You have your big and small flathead and Phillips. and your big and small, or your small set of flathead Phillips here. You put it into the handle, locks in. Pretty good build. You don't want to use these too much for putting major torque down, but it's a good screwdriver for what I need it for. I have some electrical tape up here. It's kind of hard to wedge in there, but I think it's finally stretched out, and I can put a roll of electrical tape. This is not a full roll, but this is some cheap stuff. It is 3M, however, and it's UL listed, so it's not necessarily that bad a tape. It is quite old now, I bet. And in there I have my, let's see, I think I have a LED headlamp in there. That's what I have in there, so in case I need to go anywhere. Now there is one flaw in this design. This clasp right here is made of plastic, so that's one downside. I have another kit that has a similar latch here, similar case build, but this is made out of leather, and this is not. This is plastic where that is metal, but that case was also much more expensive. Now I do not take this insert out very often, but it's the first time I took it off. If you can see there, it's peeling away and slightly damaged here on the front and back. And that is just simply because the material here is a fake leather, kind of like a pleather, and those are metal tabs right there. And they just kind of cut through it, but it has not done anything too bad to the to this insert, so I'm going to continue to use it. It has not made it integrally bad or anything. It comes with a foam insert right here, which can be taken out if you want to put things back there. Some people like to put notepads and paper and things back there, but since I haven't put anything back there yet, I leave it there so it holds this insert right here in place and tries to prevent some of that more of that chafing around this these metal tabs right here. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the case so where you can get a better look 360 of how it's built. Alright, so this is a better viewing angle of the whole thing, and as far as the exterior goes, it is pretty well built. This is aluminum right here. It's very thin aluminum, but it has kind of like a plastic coating here, and it has this on both sides of the box. And all around it, it has some rubber feet on this side, and on the other side of the box, it has some rubber feet to stand on as well. It has these little tabs here. It comes with a cheap, I guess you'd say like a little shoulder strap. I think this would be a little too heavy, at least with the gear I have in it, to put on a shoulder strap, but it is a pretty good kit. The handle design, this is made out of plastic right here, but there are metal pins, and the metal pin goes all the way through. With the weight I have, it does not seem to flex it or anything. And these latches right here, they're pretty good latches. They're not made of plastic. They are metal latches. Seem to function quite well. They do have little locks in them, but they are not very strong locks. They're about the equivalent to a suitcase lock. If you gave someone maybe a minute or two and a flathead screwdriver, or maybe one of those little, like a small pointed object, they would be able to reach the tab inside and just turn it around and the lock would pop open. It's quite simple design of the lock and not very secure. It more or less helps with making sure that the case does not come open. Maybe little ones can't get inside of it, and maybe it's a deterrent in a way. Somebody's not going to take the time, but the whole case could just be stolen, and these could be broken into quite easy. But overall, you could put this whole kit together for around maybe 100, 150 bucks. You could change it to adapt yourself better, whatever you need to do. But like I said, that multimeter in there would not be good for too much, so I would definitely upgrade that if you are planning on doing more things like this. The screwdriver kit up here, like I said, this case, horrible quality, but the screwdrivers aren't too bad. Harbor Freight Tools in general is what I'd like to say about their company. It is a good company. I really enjoy how they send those coupon books out, and they have great prices. I just went and bought a race jack from them. It's a 2-ton race jack, and I've used it to lift up front end of a truck and put some jack stands under it, and it works pretty well. And I bought some other automotive tools and wrenches and things like that. I bought an air compressor and a drill press, and they have withstand the test of time as far as that goes, but they may not have as good as quality as other tools. And I definitely would not use their cheaper end hand tools very often. It would be only for home-based use. But they do have higher end tools too, so look out for those. Sign up for their I don't think they may engage in some not so good practices with selling your address and things like that, but I've always signed up for their mail letter where they send me those coupons, and I take it in. The closest one to me is about 45 minutes away, so that is a little bit of a downside, but 25% off coupon, and I always get some type of free gift. Like I have a magnetic screwdriver rack. I've gotten 3 of those multimeters. I've not paid for a single multimeter from them, and a couple of those screwdriver sets. One set I actually got for free. One set I got for $6 and got free flashlight, and you can get free tarps, free lights, free ropes, and things like that. They always give you a free gift if you have one of those coupons. Sometimes you can even get 2. If I go with multiple people and someone else is not buying something, I'll give them one of my items and money and redeem another gift. So they have some definite cool features with buying at Harbor Freight. If you have one near you, definitely go for it. I've been all around this country so far, and I do know that they are nationwide. I'm located in Virginia, but I know they go down to Florida. I've been to Utah, and they have them in Utah. I've been to California, and I know they have them in California. And I know they have them in Washington and things like that. So there's Harbor Freight all around. You can look on the map, but you'll see that it's mostly populated on the East Coast and mid-United States. They start getting few and far between when you get to the West Coast. But I hope you have enjoyed this video, and next time you go to Harbor Freight, check out some of these items. They're definitely great buys, like especially those those fishing rods. Those are expensive at Lowe's. If you are at Lowe's or Home Depot, if you need to get those and you don't need to use it but just like one time, you don't need to spend $40. Just go ahead and spend the $10 on this one, and you always have them around too. They're good for multiple uses and they flex pretty well. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. I'll post as many videos like this as I can. But subscribing allows me to grow this channel. It allows YouTube to recognize me as a bigger channel and reach a bigger audience, which would in turn allow me to be able to support myself and buy more quality tools and be able to build more projects and things I could feature on this channel. And I think it could really become something great. I'd be able to afford more equipment and be entertaining more. So I hope everyone has a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.